Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Well, we're loading presentations. I'm going to go ahead and start to call roll. American ex-prisoners of war. There you are. American Legion. AMVETS. Disabled American Veterans. Veterans of Foreign Wars. Vietnam Veterans of America. Waves National. Women Veterans of America. Wounded Warrior Project. Very good. We do have a quorum. So I call this meeting of the United Tennessee Veterans Association to order. I want to thank everyone for coming to be here today, this being what I call our premiere session, where we have our Veterans Caucus that is invited to attend, as well as our regular membership. And our briefings for this one include the VISN, who we only get to see once a year. And so that I can first recognize our legislators who are members of the Veterans Caucus, I would like for each one of them to come up and introduce yourself at the podium. So I'm going to start with Chairman Karen Camper. Chairman Camper? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess you didn't make it in. Okay, Chairman Reagan, please. We have a chair and a co-chair.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think most of you were at the luncheon. You work as the chair, co-chair, whatever it is, at the Veterans Caucus of the General Assembly. Welcome. We're glad to share this with you, and we hope to be able to talk just a little bit later to you about some things that you can help us with.
Thank you. Thank you. And check that. Is that mic on?
No.
Okay, good.
I am Curtis Johnson, state representative from Montgomery County, and I was a hospital corpsman in the Navy, and I've been honored to carry a lot of veterans legislation that deals with veterans. And I'm sorry I missed your luncheon today, but I had a busload of constituents from Montgomery County, but glad to have you here and look forward to the meeting.
Thank you.
I'm Representative David Shepard, District 69. I'm U.S. Army, Vietnam veteran, 1970-71. I'm retired from the VA hospital here in Nashville after 23 years. So I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry I'm not dressed better, but I had a committee meeting at 11, and I missed your luncheon, so I apologize. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, those of you that missed the luncheon, you did miss a good one today. Good food, but a great presentation by Judge Bill Anderson on the Veterans Treatment Court in Shelby County. So before we go any further, I would like Assistant Commissioner Don Smith to lead us in the pledge, and I'm sorry, start with Assistant Commissioner Mark Brees for the invocation, who will be followed by Assistant Commissioner Don Smith with the pledge. So please stand.
Lord, thank you. You are so great and you are so wonderful. We worship you and we praise you. Thank you, Lord, for allowing our federal, state, and county leaders, as well as the leaders from all the veteran service organizations, to join together to come up with innovative ways to serve our veterans, their dependents, and survivors. Lord, we ask that you guide our hearts and our minds and bless this meeting today as we form to serve those veterans. Lord, we ask this in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
To the
Thank you. You may be seated. Well, once again, we have a full agenda. We are going to, after we approve the minutes, we're going to have briefings by Chair and State Representative John Reagan. Mark Brees is going to offer more information on this veteran treatment course. Jim Hayes is going to represent Director Patrick from Vision 9, and Travis Kraft is going to represent Ed McDonald from the regional office, and that will be prior to my remarks. So first of all, we will talk about the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting? Do we have a motion to approve? Second? Discussion? Any corrections? Okay. All in favor of of approving minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? No? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Representative Reagan, if you would, please take the mic and share with us your briefing for the Veterans Caucus.
Thank you. Before I begin, can I see a show of hands how many weren't at the luncheon? There's a few. For those of you that were, I'll apologize. Let me mention a few things again that were mentioned at the luncheon. I won't go into the detail that we did there. First thing I want to mention, if we can get it up there, is the Capitol website, and I encourage you to go to that under the legislation and bill search by topic. Go to Veterans, and that one, thank you. And I would encourage, if you wouldn't mind, scroll up. I don't intend to call your attention to any particular item here. I just want to call your attention to the number of items that are there. And on the left-hand side, you'll see the sponsors. In the center, the caption of the bill. And on the right-hand side, its current status. Now, that is this session, which includes last year as well as this year. From that perspective, some of them have already passed and are public law. Some of them have been killed, as it were, and will have to be brought back for another shot, as we say, in the next General Assembly. But I want you to be aware of this if you're not already. I encourage you to look at that, because what that will do is let you help us help you. As I mentioned at the luncheon, a lot of our legislation comes to us from other people. So if you have an idea for a piece of legislation that is helpful for veterans, we're more than willing to carry them. And you can see from that list of names on the left, there's a lot of my colleagues in the General Assembly that like to carry veterans legislation. There's more than 20 of us, and so we're pleased to do that, especially when it addresses a need that perhaps we may not have been aware of. And you work in the field, so probably more than likely your awareness is far greater than ours. And in some cases, it may be a question not just of awareness, but of the solution. Since you work in that field, you may have a solution that we might not be able to come up with. A word of caution about legislation. Government can't fix everything. So you may have a really great idea, but it may not be appropriate for a law. Nonetheless, bring it forward. We can discuss it. Likewise, as I mentioned at the luncheon, we're all subject to one law in particular. That's the law of unintended consequences. So we have to be very, very cautious about how we word these things, which is why Commissioner Grinder's department is so critical to us. They scrub our legislation as the experts in the field and help us a great deal towards getting the wording correct, as well as making sure we've covered all the bases. Again, at the luncheon, I mentioned a couple things, and again, I will apologize if I've bored you that were there, but for some who weren't, I want to mention a couple of items. In particular, a uniform change or code for deploying spouses. This basically puts into effect a uniform code across the states. Now, each state has individual singularities or idiosyncrasies, if you will, that have to be accommodated. So this uniform proposal has been customized for Tennessee in the law that I'm carrying. However, the majority of it is as it is in other states, and that's the goal, is to create a situation so that when a military spouse is deployed, and perhaps their divorced spouse with their children or somewhere else in another state, the law is not that different, so that they can accommodate each other. And it's also aimed at creating mutually acceptable agreements for child custody during a deployment. For example, the deployed spouse can designate a family member for partial custody while that deployed military member is gone, and a few other things like that. It's actually a pretty long bill. I won't go into great detail on it, except to say that it's a great step forward for military members that are deploying. I mentioned at that meeting also a proposal to expand the Tennessee retirement system for veterans who are serving. Currently, our law stops at Vietnam, and a letter has been sent to the commissioner, which I'm sure she's seen already, proposing an expansion of legislation to bring up the other conflicts that we have been through since that time for credit for people who are working in state employment. I mentioned also the license plate reform efforts that are going on. Representative Sexton is spearheading that effort for us. We're trying to get our confusing veterans license plates straightened around so that we can at least get veterans pointed in the right place if they qualify for a Purple Heart license plate or perhaps even a Medal of Honor, whatever. We can get that squared away so that it's not nearly as confusing as it is now. And that should be very near to the floor so that we can get it out of the House and get through the Senate. The last item I mentioned at the dinner or luncheon is Project Hero. I won't go into the detail that I did there. Suffice it to say that last year's effort was a success, a roaring success. And for those of you that were not familiar with that, Project Hero is taking wounded warriors who are so severely wounded that they're disqualified from further military service and allowing them to continue their service in police work. And the way they're doing that, now these warriors, some of whom I got a wonderful opportunity to meet last year, some of them are amputees, some of them have severe back injuries. I mean, there's a plethora of injuries that you might imagine that disqualify from future military service. But what they're being trained to do is work behind computers so that their injuries are not debilitating to them. And they're actually catching cyber predators, those despicable individuals who prey on children through a computer. And they're being taught how to build cases, what to look for, how to gather evidence, and all those other things that they need to be able to do that. The first class went through in August. It has been assessed as being a success. The next class will be next August, and I mentioned this to the Veterans Service Organization. I'll mention it to my legislative colleagues. If you want to participate with that, my office is coordinating off-duty activities for them. They train in Oak Ridge, and then they go to the FBI Academy in Virginia to complete their training. It's a very extensive training program, and talking to some of them after they've been through their training, they were amazed. It was, I think the comparison was going back to tech school in the military for them, but they've all done well. So if you want to participate in that, I encourage you, and I will not dwell on the other things that I did in the luncheon in the interest of keeping from boring you to tears there, except to say I encourage the members of our veteran service organizations to stay in touch with the veterans in the General Assembly. All of us are very proud of our service. We're proud of working with those who have served in all of our services. And we also want to continue helping veterans across our state. And with that, Commissioner, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Reagan. And a couple of things that we did over there during the luncheon I just wanted to bring to your attention. One is that we presented the proclamation for Vietnam Veterans Day to Barry Rice, who's the State Council President for Vietnam Veterans of America. But I would also like to ask all of our Vietnam veterans that are here today to please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you very much. Welcome home. welcome home. Just want to say that supporting and serving our veterans has to be a team effort. So the Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs, with our under 100 people, we cannot do it ourselves. We have federal partners, but they can't do it themselves. We have the county service officers, could not do what we do without them. Our veteran service organizations, it also takes family, it takes community, but we absolutely have to have our lawmakers working with us in serving our veterans today. And what better partners to have than our Veterans Caucus, the men and women who have themselves served the military and understand personally a lot of the issues that our veterans and their families face every day. So for our legislators, we thank you for your military service. We thank you for your continued service to our state and your dedication to Tennessee veterans. So thank you again for being here today. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to know who the military members of the legislature are, please let my department know and we can provide you a list of the Veterans Caucus. But it is an extreme pleasure to serve alongside of them in serving all of you. Well, next on the agenda, we have Assistant Commissioner Mark Brees. Mark is going to give the briefing on the Veterans Treatment Courts. It's going to be a little bit different information than what you heard from Judge Anderson this morning, but Mark has been the member of my executive team that's been most involved in these courts. I've asked him to speak with you today. Assistant Commissioner Mark Brees.
Thank you, Commissioner. Guess everyone can hear me? Pretty good. Hey, I'm Mark Brees. As the Commissioner said, I come on board with the Department of Veterans Affairs about, I guess, a little over 3 years now. And one of my first charges from the, okay, you're going to have me control it too? Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Hey, one of my first charges as the Assistant Commissioner was Commissioner Grinder sitting down with me and asking me to be the champion on these Veterans Treatment Courts for the department. So because it involved veterans, of course, I jumped on that with both feet quickly and learned a lot and still have quite a bit more to learn. Hey, in case you didn't know, Veterans Treatment Courts across the country started about 6 years ago, back in 2008 up in Buffalo, New York. The intended purpose is to make sure that our troops who have deployed, and these, I'm talking our guys and gal, American individual citizens of our country that deployed and come back and they had, whether it's issues, whether it's invisible wounds, they had some problems where they needed assistance or they needed some kind of drug or something to cope with. And so a lot of them come back where they have never drank before, where they never have taken one drug other than a bare aspirin, and they were good kids, a lot of them just out of high school, and they've come back and they chose to drink or chose to take drugs to cope with what they experienced while deployed. Before Veterans Treatment Court, our fine law enforcement officers, and in fact they are, they do what they were charged to do, and that is if they catch an individual drinking and driving, they arrest them. And they arrest them, and next thing you know, they go in front of the judge, and the judge gives them 11 months and 29 days, especially if it's their second or third arrest. And I'm talking second or third arrest since coming back from deployment. At no time did they think about, the reason why this individual may be drinking or may be drugging. And so that's how the Veterans Treatment Court program started up in Buffalo, New York. And it has, in the past 6 years, it has spread like wildfire. However, we're not there in Tennessee yet. And so the commissioner, along with her executive staff, met, and we've discussed on how we can share or educate our general sessions judges across Tennessee, as well as our districts, trying to encourage them to consider on supporting a Veterans Treatment Court, actually having a Veterans Treatment Court in Tennessee. Thanks to Representative Reagan a couple years ago, who did the right thing and wanted to make this thing a state thing, not necessarily a county, because if it's a county, they're going to take care of the veterans who are arrested in that county. They're not going to take care of any veterans who are arrested outside that county. So Representative Reagan coming forward and saying, hey, I want to make sure that this thing is statewide and not necessarily countywide. Well, we're not there yet. Because there was a physical note attached to that push to make it a state law to establish veterans treatment courts in all the districts, we're just not there. So what we have to do as a department is to go around and brief the General Sessions judges and encourage them to set up a veterans treatment court. That's where I'm at here today. The briefing that you're about to receive is the one that we intend to use as we go around approaching county General Sessions judges and in some cases district judges where there is a veteran population of 5,000 or more in that county. Yes, we need to eventually hit every one of them, but we have to start somewhere.
Excuse me, 50,000 or more.
50 or 5, ma'am.
I'm sorry, population of 50,000?
Oh, county population. Okay, I was talking veteran population. I'm sorry. Veteran population of 5,000 or more, which is very similar in size to the, because that's 10% usually. So we've been focused on, absolutely, the commissioner is right. Of the entire population of a county, 50,000 or more, which in most cases, that's a 10% of the county's veterans, which would be 5,000. Of course, we just added, we're going to start out with the presentation just with our mission statement. And the most important thing here is the entrusted advocate. That's why we're here seeing that judge, is because we want to push to get veterans treatment courts. This is our vision. Notice the one in red. To ensure Tennessee court systems are educated on the need for veterans dockets, and to ensure at-risk veterans are educated on federal health benefits. Here's the Tennessee veteran statistics. Veteran population a little over 525,000. Of that, the wartime is 387,000. There are the conflicts. If you start breaking out your calculators, you're going to notice that they don't add up, and the reason why is because we have many, many veterans who have served in 2 conflicts. Okay, problems that sometimes occurs after deployment. As I mentioned, a lot of them will come back with a loss of limb. A lot of them will come back with maybe a head injury, but a lot of times they come back with those hidden wounds, or sometimes. And I'm going to show you a percentage here in a minute, but sometimes they come back with that hidden wound, sometimes with both. Typically, if they've experienced a loss of a limb, they've probably got some other issues in there. As I mentioned, most of them, a lot of them left as a battle-ready troop, ready to go over there and serve their country, and then they come back with these wounds. And that's what we have to emphasize to the citizens of Tennessee, emphasize to the judges, and pushing to make sure they understand the sacrifices that our veterans have made and why we must have a veterans treatment court. PTSD, if you'll notice, 11 to 20 of the veterans out of 100 come back to the United States from Iraq and Afghanistan with PTSD. That's pretty significant. That's a pretty high number. Gulf War, 10 out of 100. And look at the Vietnam. You know, something that I guess we didn't pay attention to at the time when they were coming home. We realize it now. And we have a lot of our veterans who are in the veterans treatment courts today across this country who are Vietnam veterans. You know, they recognize that. Okay, what is a VTC? It's a specialized court, for the ones that can't read, a specialized court dockets established to address the needs of veteran defendants with substance dependency and or mental illness. these are exclusive dockets for veterans. Okay, it's not mixed up or intermingled with the other defendants. These are exclusive dockets, whether it's a complete court or a exclusive docket. It's a group of primarily volunteers partnered to assist veteran defendants with obtaining available resources. You know, Judge Anderson mentioned this morning that most of them are volunteers, and in fact they are. Most of them, fortunately, work in the judicial system, so they're taking time from their courts, maybe taking some volunteer hours to support this Veterans Treatment Court, and so that is remarkable. There are typically one, maybe in each one of the Veterans Treatment Courts, like an administrator, that may be the only one that's paid or maybe getting a partial payment. But most of those, that entire team, are all volunteers. It's a volunteer program that offers the veterans a second chance to restore their honor. Again, volunteer. If a veteran gets arrested, they're not automatically put into that court. They must actually sign an agreement that says, I agree to follow the instructions of the judge, and I will comply with this. And failure to comply with this, which is also part of that letter, they will be disenrolled from the Veterans Treatment Court program. Okay, and it's primarily for veterans charged with nonviolent felony misdemeanor offenses. Now, these courts are different. It depends on where you're at. If for the ones that was in the lunch earlier today, Judge Anderson said they want the worst of the worst. Well, guess what? Buffalo, New York is the same way. They want those worst of the worst. Well, there are some courts that are not there taking those convicted felonies, these what they call violent felonies yet, but there are some courts that are. Most of the courts that I've talked to across the country have been primarily misdemeanors. There are the components of a Veterans Treatment Court. Before we go to the next page, I'm basically going to talk a little bit about this team, and most judges call it a treatment team. And usually the Veterans Treatment Courts take place once a week. And that's when that docket is for your larger ones. Now, once we start hitting up these 50,000 or more in some of the counties, it may not be once a week. It may be only twice a month. But what they do is before the veteran defendant actually appears in front of that judge on that day, this treatment team gathers together and they discuss that case of that veteran. And if there's 10 veterans, then they discuss the case of all 10 of those veterans to include what the progress has been on that veteran since last week. And it may be if the judge says you don't come up but every other week, and what that's happened since 2 weeks ago. Most of them have met the order of the judge. The judge may have told them to go ahead and be an AA for every other Wednesday or 3 times a week. They may tell them that they have to take drug substance abuse testing on Mondays. So when this treatment team meets together, what they do is that judge asks, okay, has he followed my orders? Because they've got the right people around that table to answer that question. After that treatment team is finished discussing all the cases, that's when the court actually starts. That's when the veteran will actually appear in front of the judge. And these, of course, are the components of the Veterans Treatment Court. And we'll start with the judge and the court staff. Court staff primarily being the administrator. That's the one that's typically to the left of the judge. The components on the prosecutor and defense. You know, normally, and if you've all ever been in a courtroom, there's some adversarial going on there, adversarials between the prosecutor and the defense. They're arguing, they're fighting. That's not the case on these treatment teams. I mean, they're all around that table, again, before the veteran comes in, and they discuss it, and they both are wanting to make sure that this veteran is successful to complete this program. So you don't have a prosecutor saying, throw him in jail, throw him in jail. No, they're actually working together to make sure that all these veterans complete this program. The U.S. Department of VA. That is that veteran, Judge Anderson mentioned this morning, the Veteran Justice Outreach Coordinator. Fortunately, right now in Tennessee, we have two, one in Memphis and one in Nashville. In a minute, I'm going to show you how many courts we have here. That's not enough. The Veterans Justice Outreach Coordinator has to be in the courtroom because they're part of that treatment team. And right now, with the very few veterans treatment courts that we have in Tennessee, everything is great. But soon as we, the TDVA, start educating these general sessions and pushing these veterans treatment courts to open up all across Tennessee, we see we're going to have a problem having enough of those outreach coordinators, the VJOs. So in a case like that, we may have to fill in some of the shoes. Okay, there's the TDVA, the State Department of Labor, and the County Veterans Service Office. We haven't included too much in the county yet, but we are getting ready to move in that direction of adding the County Veterans Service Officer to do a dual role with the Tennessee Department of VA. It's our folks who are around, they're part of that treatment team, and they're actually making sure that those veteran defendants have filed for benefits, especially if they, in fact, have PTSD. We want to make sure they file for benefits. So the County Veteran Service Officer is soon to be partnering with us in some of our larger courts. The Department of Labor is there. Judge Anderson mentioned this morning, we unfortunately, a lot of times veterans may not have a job. So we make sure that we have a veterans rep in that treatment team. So if a veteran appears in front of that judge and says, hey, Your Honor, hey, I don't have a job, you know, I can't pay for this or I can't pay for that. Well, guess what? There's a Department of Labor vet rep there prepared to help them find a job. Of course, peer mentors. It was talked quite a bit about peer mentors. This seems to be a big challenge in a lot of the courts, and that's finding those volunteer veterans. Again, I say volunteer veterans to actually be, and we call them in the military or in the Army a battle buddy, and Air Force wingman. You know, we want to make sure that mentor is there to work with that veteran. Now, they're not the authority figure. They can't order anything on that veteran. But what seems to be pretty critical is once that veteran leaves that courtroom, they need somebody to make, the call, or somebody maybe need to call them just to make sure, because the mentor was in the courtroom, he heard what the judge or she heard what the judge said, and that is on Tuesdays you're going to be here, and on Thursdays you're going to be here. Well, that mentor is going to call him. Hey, buddy, you didn't forget about this meeting. You hadn't forgot about that one. So that mentor plays a very critical role. But I want to make sure that there has been some scenarios where that mentor thought they were the authority figure, and in fact, they're not. And of course, there's no payment for mentors. What we're looking for across the state of Tennessee are veterans who have served and want to give back. And that's how they give back, is to volunteer to be a mentor. Current veterans treatment courts in Tennessee: Shelby County, where Judge Anderson's from, Montgomery County up at right outside Fort Campbell. As the commissioner mentioned this morning, Nashville-Davidson County now has a docket, or actually has had one for quite some time. Hopefully in the future we'll see a full court in Davidson County. And of course, Knox County, Don, I don't want to forget Knox County. That's up and coming. We actually met with several of the leaders from the Knox County just the other day, and we're preparing an MOU to make sure that, as Commissioner Verney says, we don't plow the same ground. So we make sure we know who's doing what. And so those are the 4 courts in Tennessee. If you look at the veteran population of those 4 locations, that's about 1/3 of our veteran population in Tennessee. We still have 2/3 that's not being given afforded an opportunity to appear in front of a Veterans Treatment Court. Those 2/3 may have to serve some time in jail, and that's not fair. That's not right, because it was those 2/3 that also served and sacrificed in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Vietnam. So we need to make sure that we push more courts across Tennessee. Thanks to Representative Reagan for he would not take no for an answer. And I guess he's left, but he went ahead and pushed for a House Joint Resolution number 124, which is right here, the original one. Basically, in the House Joint Resolution, he is encouraging general sessions, encouraging counties, and encouraging districts to step up and establish veterans treatment courts. Judge Anderson gave a couple examples this morning of some challenges that he's having. Talking to not only the courts in Tennessee, but talking to some other veterans treatment courts, there is one major challenge that they're running into. It's not that they don't have a courtroom to convene at. It's not that they don't have enough defendants to put on a docket. It's the funding. That's the big issue. And this is a big issue nationwide, not just in Tennessee. We see that this is going to continue to be an issue. However, we think if we continue to push veterans treatment courts across Tennessee, as well as the other states across the nation, the more veterans treatment courts, the louder our congressional leaders hear us. And the louder they hear us, the more likely we may eventually get some federal funding. So, we have to push the veterans treatment courts. And as I said, for the Veteran Service Organization, the mentors is where we're looking within your organizations to get those volunteers. Guess that's it. Yep, subject to your questions. That's all I have.
The chair recognizes Barry Rice.
Mark Barry Rice, Vietnam Veterans. How many, a mentor, is it a one-on-one thing, or are they assigned more than one veteran to work with? Is there a ratio?
Due to the limited number of mentors, yes, there are some veterans who are assuming the role of mentor for 4 or 5, yes.
We have time for one more question. Okay.
Yes. Tiffany Doherty with Wounded Warrior Project. And my question is about the peer mentors as well. Are they going through the state training program for peer mentors, the same as those that would be hired, the RAP training and the other?
Yeah, we have not had a state one yet. However, starting in June, there's some federal funding, or actually some funding available that they are going to have a boot camp for mentors. I think it's the last week of June. Don't have the dates on me, but it'll be a 1-week program that they'll offer here in Tennessee for volunteer mentors. Also, most of the courts have a internal training program for mentors, and that's basically they're going to go over an SOP of what they can and cannot do. That's what to include. Shelby County has one as well. Ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Brees. Now, we do have a new director of Vision 9, JP, as we call him, but Director Patrick. Unfortunately, he's not here. He's going to stop in to meet you at the June meeting. But we do have his very capable Deputy Director, Jimmy Hayes, and Sandra Glover from the Vision is also here as well. So, Director Hayes, please.
I don't think I'll need the mic, but I'll start with it.
Is the red light on?
It's good.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
We will need that for the video stream and for archiving.
Okay. All right. So thanks for allowing me to come represent the network and John Patrick. He sends his regrets. He is out of town at a health conference in Chicago and with the other leadership of VA this week. And so as an important decision to make to go and represent us at that conference versus coming to this meeting today. We'll start off with a little introduction of myself. The deputy network position I assumed back in fall of last year. I had been acting on it since John Dandridge retired in December of the previous year, and Vicki Kendrick, who was the deputy, assumed the role as the director. And we hired John Patrick. He came on board in June of this year. And my day job was the CFO for the network. And I really, when John Patrick came on board, I liked his vision and saw where he was going with the network. And so decided to step out of the role of the CFO and apply for the deputy job. In October will be my 39th year with the federal government. I got 8 years active duty, 1 tour in Vietnam. I spent 31 years with the Department of the Army, and then retired. And on my way out the door, a friend that worked for the VA asked for my resume. And so before I got my bags packed, I was headed to Chicago to work for Hines VA Medical Center there. And that was in 2006. So I've been on board with the VA since then. There is no better mission in my mind to spend your second career than serving the vets of this country. And but I would like to tell you a little bit about John Patrick. And he will be here in June. JP has spent his entire adult life serving the vet. He started in college at Charleston VA Medical Center, and he basically took that job as a part-time job to help pay for school. After a year of that, he decided to start a family, so he needed a real job, so he stayed on with the VA. He is a psychologist trained and has spent the last almost 30 years traveling around with VA. He, prior to coming to Vision 9, he was at Portland VA. And those that know a little about the hospitals around the country, Portland is one of the innovative hospitals. It started out many years ago receiving a lot of funding because of, well, we could go with Silicon Valley in the West. We could go with more progressive type automations in the West. And so Portland stuck as an innovative hospital. And they have a large research component. And as they have moved through the years, it is one of the landmark hospitals for VA. And JP was there for almost 4 years as the director. One of the things that he brings to our network is that innovation. And not to take anything away from Vision 9, but he is a spark to start a different direction with Vision 9. And it's been a real positive journey with him almost at his year anniversary of what changes that he's made. When he came to the network and we started on this journey at the end of last summer, one of the things that I had known from being in this network for some time, and he noticed right off, is that we were 6 medical centers operating almost by themselves. But that's no fault of anybody's. That was the footprint model that when the network started, is that you had oversight by the network, not operations. Well, as we've gone through the last 10, 12 years with networks, they're now built to be more operational. So as he came on board, one of the things he did was give every network or every facility director an assignment. So each of these directors now has a service line. And these service lines, we built a service line around the strategic plan for VA. One of the most important things that we wanted to address was homeless and the mental health issues. So we have a mental health service line. And the service line in the mental health world cuts across all our network facilities. The director, our newly appointed director at Huntington, West Virginia, is the mental health service line. And while each director is still responsible for their hospital, this service line is built to ensure that somebody has, at the SES level, has total focus on mental health. So Brian Nemo is our new director at Huntington. He's responsible for mental health service line. So he is looking at all of those every day of all the efforts that go into homeless and mental health, along with our mental health chief from the network and the mental health chiefs of each of our medical centers. So it's a cross-cutting action to try to help improve our services to the veteran. So no longer is just Memphis responsible for their mental health patients, but we now have this team, this service line, that is there to ensure that we're getting continuity of service for all the medical centers. And if we're lacking in services from one medical center to the other, that service line reaches out through telehealth or balancing the services that we get. So we got a lot of things that are positive out of that already. And actually, we stood the service lines up in August. We went operational in December, and we've basically changed the direction and the governance of the network to where those service lines drive what we do every day. There's 6 service lines, and we have a mental health, homeless, patient-centered care, primary care, tertiary specialty care, geriatric and extended care, and then organizational health. Organizational health is one that we put in there that's service to ourselves. That's to ensure that we got trained nurses and docs and happy employees, satisfied volunteers, all of those things that go into making a healthy organization. But it's amazing in this short amount of time structuring in these service lines the new innovative ideas that we have. We're no longer got a patient-centered care person at each medical center doing things their way. We've got one service line across all that are aligning functions to where we provide the same services at every medical center. We can't provide out of any one medical center all the care that we need to provide. It's financially impossible, geographically impossible, and we just could not get it done. But through the service lines of looking and balancing these services and ensuring that everyone is getting the same service, maybe not in their backyard. So we're looking for a lot of good things to come out of that, and I believe that it is a new direction for VISA 9 to address some issues. So a couple of things that we're working on in VISA 9, going back to your earlier presentation on the Veterans Courts, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia are all our catchment area. These states are among the top 10 states with the highest rates of non-medical use of prescription pain relievers. And if you look at all the activity that goes on with pain management within the VA, this is a very concerted effort to try to manage the opioids that we issue on a daily basis out of the VA. And so this is going to be a long process. We're working with the states. The states now have opioid registration panels where when a doc is issuing pain meds, they're consulting with these state databases to see if we have people that are going to 5 docs in the states getting the same prescription every month and indeed have a pain reliever problem. And so a lot of good things coming out of that as well. A couple of significant construction issues that we've got going on across the state. We're very excited about our #1 project that we're pushing to get completed, and that's a new ED in Memphis. We've had some issues with that ED, and if any of you have ever been in that medical center, it has a early 70s era emergency room. It's small, it's compact, and it is in need of renovation. We're in design on that now. Design will be completed within the next 90 days, and we hope to go to construction on that late summer, early fall. That will greatly improve just the logistics and the footprint of that hospital and how it sees patients. And if you ever get the opportunity to be in Memphis, stick your head in, look at the ED now, and then go back 18 months from now and see the improvement in the flow. So in addition, in Memphis, they're expanding and modernizing their ORs. One of the challenges in Invisalign in most of VA medical centers is our orthosurgery. It is a challenge everywhere trying to keep ORs set aside for orthosurgeries. Memphis is no different. Tennessee Valley, all our Tennessee medical centers have that problem, that we don't have enough ORs to get in our aging population and our returning young people with the different limb issues that they have to get into these. So Memphis is expanding their OR to have more capacity to that. So we hope to move around the network, even out of Nashville down to Memphis after that OR expansion to take on more ortho work. The Mountain Home Hospital is doing a community living addition that'll add 4,300 square foot spacing, and that gives us an entire additional floor for community living. So that'll equal about 60 beds for that new unit at Mountain Home. Murfreesboro, great things going on down there. The Fisher House earlier this year that was built on the property, as well as we just opened a new mental health RRTP unit down there. So this is 30 beds for mental health rehabilitation, and this is for a 30-day program, something that was lacking, that the model took us away from several years ago and has now brought us back. This will allow us to address more substance abuse in-house patients at Murfreesboro. So we opened that, actually the 1st of March was the official opening of that. The Nashville Hospital if you look at the Nashville Hospital, on the back of it is what they call the Acre Building, and that's the research facility. And that was in bad need of renovation. We've completely done one floor. We're doing the other floor in research. We opened out of that research facility probably about 25 additional research stations. So a lot more research can be done, and so very good things going on there. Mark, one of the takeaways today is the justice outreach. And just want to go over what we are doing homeless real quick. I know we're pressed for time. The General Shinseki, the secretary, has put a landmark opportunity in front of all of us to end homeless by 2015 among the veteran population. And the homeless funding that comes down addresses a lot of issues with that, including your justice outreach coordinators. And so we need to work to get that funding aligned and get additional justice coordinators. We'll reach out and have a discussion about that after this. But we have got a lot of things going on in homeless. It is our drive to meet that goal of ending homeless in our communities. Our real challenge for ending homeless is not so much in the urban areas. We seem to be making strides to address that. Now, you know, and that's a hard measurement to put on, because not everybody wants to go the program to be off the streets, and that's a real hard balance. So we're trying to address all that we can to get off the streets. Housing First has been a positive move that we do. First thing, you know, at one point we were trying to cure them, then get them in homes. Now we're getting them in homes and working on the cure. So Housing First has been a positive across the state. Our biggest challenge is in East Tennessee, in the very rural areas of Middle and West Tennessee. We seem to be providing programs in the urban areas, but we've got to do a lot better job of reaching out to the rural community. And so working with the state, those are items that we can improve upon. We just hired a women's veteran coordinator for the network, Marjorie Randall. Maybe she can drop by with JP in June. She's out on the road right now visiting all the medical centers. But Marjorie is a retired military officer who's been involved with health care for 25 years. She comes to us as a nurse and has taken on the role for women's health. So we look for a lot of things out of that. I'm going to stop there so that I've got a minute for questions, if there's any questions.
Well, and actually, I'm sorry, but we probably are going to have to pass on the questions for now. I want to thank you so very much for coming, and please extend our regards to Director Patrick. Thank you so very much. I appreciate everything that you briefed us on and everything that the division is doing.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Appreciate your coming today. Next on the agenda, I think everyone already knows, Assistant Director of the Regional Office, Travis Kraft. Also with him here today is Shelby Mullins. So, Travis, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, it's on. Making sure that's on. It's a privilege to be here this afternoon representing the Regional Office. I'd like to start by just saying that Director McDonald, Edna McDonald, would love to be here. She is still on detail in Montgomery, Alabama, but we'll be back on Monday, April 14th. So that's good news there. Okay, just wanted to give everybody a little perspective on how many employees we have and how much we pay out in compensation benefits each year. Currently, we have 427 employees. I will tell you, though, that we recently received approval to hire up a little bit, and we are in the process right now of going through interviews for approximately 15 more claims processors. More specifically, they're going to be veteran service representatives, so doing more of the front end of the claim and the back end of the claim. So I was very pleased to hear about that. We still administer benefit programs all over the state of Tennessee, approximately 500,000 and 526,000 veterans that we serve in Tennessee. You'll see on the next slide, though, we are still heavily involved with the National Brokering Initiative. So we're not only working claims in Tennessee, but we're working claims from different parts across the country, and you'll see a little bit more of that here in a second. To put our monthly compensation and pension payments in perspective, we pay approximately 95,000 Tennessee veterans, about $112 million per month, which equates to just over $1.1 billion per year that our office pays out. Okay, I mentioned the National Claims Processing Initiative that we're a part of. You can see we started in April of 2013, and through January of 2014, we brokered in approximately 15,000 rating claims into our office. We took mostly them from Los Angeles, Winston-Salem, St. Petersburg, and Montgomery. The next bullet shows kind of how we're doing with completing those claims. We have completed approximately 11,000 or 74% of approximately 15,000 claims, and that's as of January. We'll actually have updated numbers here shortly. But we continue to support that national initiative. And one of the other goals, Mr. Hayes mentioned the goal of ending veteran homelessness by 2015 or by the end of it. Two of the other major initiatives from Secretary Shinseki are to reach 98% accuracy and no claims pending over 125 days. And that's essentially what this National Claims Processing Initiative is about. It's finding stations that have the capacity to do more than what they get from their own state. We were identified as one of those higher performing offices, and that's why we received so much of the brokered work. I will tell you, I don't anticipate any time in the near future having to take in large amounts of brokered claims. We've essentially reached our capacity point. Having said that, it is somewhat of an ongoing, ever-changing process, and so we could at any time be told, hey, you're going to take X number of claims, but I don't anticipate that at least. To show you how we did in fiscal year 2013, we've completed over 31,000 rating claims in an average of 179 days, so just under 6 months was our average for completions. We increased our rating accuracy quite a bit, which I'm very proud of, and actually owe a lot of that to Ms. Mullins, who's here, who's in charge of not only our quality program, but also our training program, so kudos to her for sure. Well, we finished fiscal year 2013. We did not quite achieve the 98%, but we did get to 97.3, and that's for rating accuracy. You've heard me say this before, prior briefings. We're shooting for 100%. We're not, the goal is 98. We're shooting for 100. Not quite there yet, but that's the goal. We're going to continue that goal until we reach that goal. Our inventory peaked at 21,059. That was at the end of January 14, and that is in large part due to the national brokered claims that we received during that time. 13,525, or 64% approximately of those claims, are pending over 125 days. And as you can see on the last bullet, we've worked that down to our inventory of a little over 18,000, and we've, of course, been working very diligently to try to hit those claims pending over 125 days, and have gotten that percentage down to 59%. to just under 11,000 of those. You all know that we transformed, like all 56 regional offices across the country. We're now in the organizational model. We went in November of 2012. VBMS, which is the Veterans Benefits Management System, that's the paperless system that we're now using. We went live just under a year ago in May of 2013, and they staggered the approach across regional offices. Not all went into VBMS at once. But as you can see, we're 80% of our claims pending in Nashville are in VBMS, which means that they are paperless. There are some offices that are at 90% plus. We were kind of at the back end of the staggered approach. But I will tell you, we are getting very close, and I don't know exactly when we'll be there, but I project sometime this summer we will have close to 100% of our claims will be on our paperless system, which it's exciting. The system is getting faster and faster. They keep making improvements. Not every weekend, but numerous weekends they do updates. We just had one done over the weekend that went very well, and they continue to do that. We provide feedback directly to the undersecretary, and she gets it from the ground level. She talks to employees directly, bubble that feedback up through the channels, and then they take that feedback, and that's what they do when they, a good part of what they do when they make updates to VBMS to make the system actually better for the people on the ground level actually using it. So it's very, very cool. Talk a lot about claims processing, but we do also have two other business lines in Nashville, one being our vocational rehabilitation and employment division. We right now are responsible for approximately 3,000 VR&E claims. And as you know, we have out-based offices throughout the state so that veterans have better access to us so they can get the benefits that they need. Speaking of better access to us, we have two Vet Success on Campus programs now. We've talked a lot about the one at Middle Tennessee State. That was one of the inaugural programs across the country that we piloted, and it's still up and running and working very well. And we now also have another one at Austin Peay State University. So we have two Vet Success on Campus programs. That one is it's only been up for a few months, but it's going very, very well. And so we're gonna see how things go, but we possibly could expand that down the road, which is exciting. Speaking of expansion, we've expanded in Fort Campbell, in particular with our VR&E IDES counselors. We have 6 of those up there now, and we're currently recruiting for additional. Specifically, we were recruiting for 3. We filled one of those. She actually came on board 2 weeks ago, and we're trying to we're recruiting for 2 more right now. It's very nice. You can see from the second bullet, we're all right there. And so when these service members need assistance, they don't have to hop around the base. They can come and they can see whether it's a military services coordinator on the benefit side, vocational rehabilitation, they're all right there, which is very helpful. And actually our Tennessee Valley healthcare partners are there too. So it's very seamless, and it's a great program that we've got collectively with DOD and VHA up there. Our other business line I mentioned is the National Call Center. We have 85 public contact representatives, and they provide the benefits over the 1-800-827-1000 toll-free number. And we also have 24 public contact reps that are dedicated specifically to veteran service officers. Our wait time for our regular calls is pretty good. It's getting better, but the wait time for the VSOs is less than a minute. It's good to see a thumbs up there. So we're proud of that, and we are dedicated to that program. We piloted it, and now it's full time. If for whatever reason the wait time were to get longer, we would absolutely look at adding resources to that, because we want you guys to have direct access, not have to sit in a queue to help those veterans when they need that. I will tell you, in relation to the National Call Center, We got mentioned that we got hiring authority for approximately 15 more claims processors. We've also gotten hiring authority for approximately 30 plus additional public contact representatives to staff our 1-800 line. So we are literally actively in the process right now of interviewing and recruiting for those additional PCRs, which is very exciting. And speaking of exciting, and I'm going to actually have Ms. Mullins come up to present this part, but we have a really cool pilot program going on. It's fully developed to ready for decision, and I'll step aside and let Ms. Mullins.
Sure. This is one of the pilots that we're extremely proud of. It's fairly new. We started this in November, and it was collaborative efforts between our local VSOs and Tennessee Valley Healthcare. And our VSOs have been critical to the success of this pilot. We were actually, as Travis said earlier, we were processing claims last year in 179 days on average. Through this pilot, we're processing claims within 30 days. And you can see with the volume of cases that we have, timeliness is one of our biggest challenges. So we're really excited about this program. We're meeting on a monthly basis to try to find ways to make this bigger, make this better, to expand it. We're working with Tennessee Valley to see if we can expand to other addresses and zip codes so we can make this bigger and better. A few of the statistics that we have to share with you on this, I believe. So since November, we've had approximately 50 veterans participate in this pilot. We've completed 65 medical reviews. Unfortunately, we've had a few that were having to be excluded for various administrative reasons. We have 6 cases where we're just waiting on the veteran to say, yes, proceed. That's one of the enhancements that we're working on right now with the VSOs, where the VSO can actually step in on behalf of the veteran and say, please proceed. So that's one of the few things that we're hoping to improve. We've already finalized 27 decisions with 30 days timeliness. So we're really proud of this pilot and hope we can continue. And we really seriously thank our local VSOs because we couldn't do it without you.
That actually concludes the presentation. I don't know if we have time for questions. I was going to open it up for that, but don't know if we have time.
Actually, if we stop in 1 minute, we'll be right on time. So is there anyone here that can ask a very quick question? Thank you for your honesty.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Travis, thank you so very much. Appreciate you and Shelly being here. Okay, I'm going to run through a few things very quickly. Our 3rd annual Women Veterans Summit is coming up on the 5th and 6th of April. It's going to be held at the Embassy Suites in Franklin, Tennessee. And there's still time to register, although early registration is cut off. If you go to our website at www.tn.gov/veteran, the very first thing that will pop up, you'll see the logo for the Women Veterans Summit. We'd be very happy to have more women veterans register for attendance. We'd be extremely happy to get any more sponsorships for this. I know some of the VSOs have sponsored. We do not have appropriated funding for this, so we rely very heavily on sponsorships, and we actually already have 7 women veterans that have been sponsored for attendance this year. So please throw your support behind this in whatever way that you can. Digital claims. Travis mentioned the fully developed claims, the ready to rate, the VBMS, but we're also piloting the digit-to-digit transmission of claims. Within the Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs, we have reduced the processing time within our department from 8 days down to 2. So that has greatly increased the efficiency, because the sooner we can get it over to the regional office, obviously the sooner the veteran's going to get their the funding. But especially if we're talking about toward the end of the month, that 8 days coming down to 2 is critical. So very happy about that. We are still working with our county service officers. A lot of them are fully digital now as well, but some of them, depending on their county funding and their ability to use computers. We still have a few holdouts there, but we're working with those one-on-one because, again, this is just better service for our veterans. The governor, back in November, designated the Veterans Education Task Force, and I am chair of that body. We have already met a couple times. We meet again this Friday. And this group of individuals on the task force, this isn't the typical government task force that is there by name and they smile, look pretty, and don't really get a lot done. We're not worried about smiling, looking pretty, but we are worried about getting a lot done. Because in June, we are planning to give the governor our plan, our list of recommendations, because we know that in order for our veterans to get quality careers, we don't want unemployed veterans. We don't want veterans to just have jobs. We want to make sure that they've got a bright future. So that's the higher education is going to be important for them to compete. Some of them don't have a problem with funding because some of them have the post 9/11 GI Bill. Some of them are Vietnam veterans and Desert Storm. Their benefits have expired. But a lot of them have other challenges within just the transitioning from military into a campus environment. They go from a high up tempo situation where everything is regimented, everybody knows what everybody is doing. You're part of a group and you've got your battle buddy and you're going to get through this, into a very laid back atmosphere where people are speaking a different language, look completely different, and a lot of the veterans just don't feel like they fit in. So we're identifying those issues for those veterans and making recommendations of how best to overcome them. We, as Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs, we are also initiating a lot of initiatives. My department has not grown. We still have the same, less than 100 personnel manning. We still have a fairly small budget. But while we're doing great with our development of claims, we're doing great in operating our cemeteries, we want to do more. Our veterans need more. They deserve more. So we really want to become everything veteran. So we've had a lot of initiatives that involve employment for our veterans, business opportunities for our veterans, training. We're working with some of our fellow state agencies that have jobs that veterans can very well transition into. Department of Correction, Department of Safety, Department of Environment and Conservation, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So we're working with them, and a lot of them are now attending our outreach events, which you have seen if you have been to the one that we just had on the 7th. We've revamped them, and now our state partners are attending these with us to actively recruit veterans as employees for their departments. They've already known what great employees veterans make because of all the great soft skills and technical skills that they bring to the table. But now they have active recruitment programs. Department of Correction has actually hired a temporary person to develop their recruitment program. So these are great things. The Department of Mental Health, you already know that we're partnering with them with our veteran treatment courts, but they're also sending representatives to our outreaches for the mental health screening and to provide other resources for them. So this has all been exciting because our outreaches are planned well in advance. There you see we've got all of our dates for the entire year. So we fully anticipate all of our partners, be it state, federal, Veteran Service Organization, education partners, prospective employers, to plan to be at each and every one, because these are multi-county outreaches, and we have already seen what great results we have seen from these, and because we're able to reach more veterans with a lot more services, we anticipate that we'll be able to help more and more veterans take these services and support elements and walk away and become better citizens and be able to transition better into the community. I do also want to share with you some other good news. I attended our conference in Conference of My Peers, NASVA, back in February, and while there, met one-on-one with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And Eric Eversole from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I was already talking with him on some initiatives for our veterans, because I really would like to see Tennessee to be the most veteran-friendly, veteran-focused state in the country. And it's hard to do when you have limited resources, but if you have the right people working together with the right amount of passion and compassion, I believe we can get there. So Tennessee is now one of only 3 states to be part of All Start Vet States. And if you go to the website, which Yvette's going to pull up, but it's www.allvetstates.com/state/Tennessee. You will see, and this is still a work in progress, okay? We're still working a lot on it, but you'll see on this website, going down a bit, there's a little bit about our department, but state resources. So you've got a lot of our state events. You'll see there highlighted our Women Veterans Summit. You've got our Facebook page that has a lot of events that a lot of you have posted to, and we welcome you to do that. You'll see that we've got links to jobs, links to education, and we want this to grow and grow and grow to where this is going to be a site that's going to be all-inclusive for answering questions. What has your state got to offer as far as benefits? Obviously, we want to see a lot more. We've got points of contact, links over to the Jobs for Tennessee, and a lot of other great things. So you'll see there's, the hiring fairs, hiring for heroes, links to a lot of different things. So we're very excited to be the first of a group of only 3. And again, this is growing. So any other ideas or suggestions that you may have of things that we might want to link to on this, be more than happy to hear those. Also, at the NASVA conference, we've got some resolutions that we wrote and put together before the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. One of them has to do with the funding for state veterans' homes. As you know, in Tennessee, we have 3 existing, 1 under construction, plans for several more. But the funding available for these homes at the U.S. level is decreasing greatly. So we want to make sure that our secretary knows, that our legislators know how important this is, as we have veterans that are not only coming to an age where they need this service, but even some of our younger veterans can use our state veterans homes as either transitional care, and some of them may need it for permanent care. But this has been a very important issue for us. Also, the Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs was recognized, not at this conference, but the one previously, by Allison Hickey, who is the Undersecretary for Benefits, for our work with our regional office for fully developed claims. So again, all of this is just better service to our veterans. We also want to make sure that as you're looking at your events coming up, please, I want you to make sure that your other veteran service organizations know about them, that you put them on our Facebook page so that we can share them with veterans. And we can't make it to all of your events, but we try very hard to make it to as many as we can. And any that I cannot personally make, my regional commissioners are going to try very hard to be there. And it's important for us that your veterans know what our department does. And you are that conduit. You come to these meetings, and the information that you receive at these meetings really don't do any good if it just stays with you. It's critically important that you share this information with the rest of your staff, with your chapters, and the folks that may be visiting your organizations. And remember, these meetings are archived. And if you go to our website, which, as you know, is www.tn.gov/veteran, there is the UTVA page. That's where you're going to find our agenda. That's where you're going to find our archived meetings, because not only is this video streamed, it is recorded and available. The briefing notes that all of you provide in advance are included on that site. So it's a little too much for anybody to remember, but I assure you that if you're not sharing this information, you're wrong. And really need to make sure that that goes out. Starting this month, we are going to be charged for this service of taping and archiving this information. But we feel that it's important enough that even with our small budget, we are committed to still provide this service for your members. So it's only good if you share that with them. Any questions of me? Okay. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Wendell Cheek, who's going to give you an update in his area.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've got 4 quick bullet points, all of which talk about our veteran cemeteries. To give you an update on the West Tennessee Veteran Cemetery in Memphis, the project there to raise, realign, and clean and put in a box beam system in 7 sections is now complete. That was a $2.7 million federal grant. No Tennessee state dollars were expended on that project. So if you get an opportunity, I'm sure Mark and Phil Sinclair, the director at the cemetery, would more than welcome you to stop by and take a look at the good work that was done there. Also in the West Tennessee area, the steering committee there has selected 3 sites for evaluation. The top site is now under evaluation. The title search is complete, and now environmental studies are being completed. And we'll bring you more information on that site as time goes on. In the Upper Cumberland region, the committee there has chosen 3 sites, all of which is donated land. Those sites are currently under evaluation by our office as well as the Department of General Services, and we're looking at suitability for those sites. On a sad note, the director of the Middle Tennessee State Veterans Cemetery, Mr. Brian Wiles, succumbed to pancreatic cancer 2 weeks ago, and Brian was buried in the Nashville Cemetery, Middle Tennessee State Veterans Cemetery, on March the 10th. Fortunately, with the commissioner and Brian's foresight, we saw a need to place an individual there prior to Brian going on his sick leave. His name is Joseph Lindsay. Joseph is currently serving in the Navy Reserves, was a member of their Honor Guard team, and has been selected as the new director for the Nashville Cemetery. So if you have an opportunity to visit that cemetery, please stop by and welcome Joe. Commissioner, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions of Wendell? Okay. Roger Harrell from Claims.
Okay, let me go over what we've done so far this fiscal year in claims. We've had 77 scheduled travel board hearings. We did 65, various reasons why we didn't finish all of them. 203 issues, 136 videos, conferences so far this year. We've completed 107. 76 local hearings, 45 were completed. A lot of those are because we'll have vets, we'll settle those before we have a hearing date. These are proposals most of the time. They're proposing to reduce them, and we're working that out now in advance. The director of the regional office has given us 2 weeks to get the files ready, a week before the hearing, so the VA representatives can look at those files and we can kind of negotiate and work it out for a new exam or whatever, and save those guys having to come in for a hearing. So we did 477 issues so far since July the 1st of last year in our hearings. The local hearings for starting in April are going to go from 3 days a month to 9 days a month. The VA is way behind on their docket for proposals. The purpose of that is if you say they're proposed to reduce you for some issue, you say you want a hearing, they can't touch that until you've had the actual hearing. So now it's keeping the docket full. They're going to go ahead and triple up on us each month as long as we can stand it. And in addition to the videos, in addition to the travel boards, to try to clear that docket for them. And also we're working videos at Mountain Home, which has been very successful. This coming Friday, we're going to do one for a terminally ill patient down up in Knoxville. And then we're going to begin to start doing the same thing in Memphis. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Any questions of Roger? Okay. Now I'd like an opportunity for any of the VSOs that wanted to highlight or add to their briefing anything they would like to at this time. Yes, Scott.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to mention that
Is your light on?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
that the VFW Department of Tennessee has appointed a women's chair for the Tennessee Women's Summit, and they'll be sending her. It's Miss April Faust.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. George, did you have something?
Yes, Commissioner. I don't know if you've got time to address this or not. Our meeting in September, you were addressing the parking problem. We were discussing that, and I don't know if anything is transpired on that.
What we would like to continue to use this facility for our meetings because of the fact that we are able to have them video streamed, that we're able to have them recorded and archived. Anytime that you have a parking request, if you would send that to Noreen, we'd only like to do one per department. So if you're going to have 3 people from VFW meet someplace and carpool in, but if you'd give us a parking request, I would say 9 times out of 10 we're going to be able to help you out with that, George. And because you have the dates in advance, you can send those to us just as early as you'd like. We'll help you any way we can. Any other questions or comments on that issue? Okay. Anything else from any of the other VSOs? Okay. I do want to remind all of you that the legislators are in session for probably less than a month now. But you should be involved in our state legislation. Before they start session, you should be meeting with your state legislators to let them know what issues are important to you and to your members. After a bill has been introduced, you should make it your business to be familiar with the provisions of that bill. And you as a group decide whether or not you support that bill or you don't, or you do, but with certain changes. Because you're the voice. You're the voice of the veterans. And so involve yourselves in that process. Make sure that you're informed. And as they're drawing to an end, there's going to be some of the bills that are passed, some that weren't passed, some that are going to be rolled till next year. But you should be able to keep your membership informed of what your state is doing for them. So again, you know, you're the voice. We've got over 525,000 veterans, and some of them may not either feel comfortable with the process of contacting a legislator or be informed of that. So at the state level, you have folks that know that. That's their job. So please be sure that you involve yourself. Before our next meeting, Memorial Day is going to be coming up. A lot of events for a lot of you. And again, not only invite you to get those events on our Facebook page, but invariably we get requests a week before Memorial Day asking for one of us to speak or be in attendance. You shouldn't be too surprised, but sometimes we book up a year in advance. So we want to support you, but we do need advance notice and details on your event so that we can support you. Do we have any unfinished business that needs to be addressed? Any new business? Any comments for the good of the order? Yes, Scott.
Yes, ma'am. Let me take my hat off. I traveled across the state in the last 3 or 4 months for both the American Legion and the VFW, and I've hit many, many posts across the state. And I know you're tired of hearing this, but the post would like to have bingo back. And the state legislatures are the ones that are capable of doing this. And they've all left. So I'm taking off my VFW, and I'm speaking as a veteran that's a member of several different posts across the state. We would like to stress how important it is to try to get this put back so that we can have bingo in the post.
Okay. I think my legislative liaison, Colin Lewis, if you haven't met him, may have an update on that. Is your mic on, Colin?
Yes, it is on. Colin Lewis, Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs, Legislative Liaison. You're referring to the constitutional amendment that would allow 501c19 organizations to participate in lotteries. That bill will actually be heard on third reading tonight in the State House. Representative Reagan is carrying that constitutional amendment. Once it passes tonight, which all signs point that it will pass on third reading tonight, it will then be placed on the ballot at the next upcoming election. And so that is moving forward to be able to correct that. And like I said, that is on tonight. And anybody who wants to can call Representative Reagan. He's the one sponsoring it in the House. Last year, Senator Rusty Crowe carried that in the Senate, and it passed out of the Senate. It needs to, because of the way constitutional amendments work, it has to pass out in 2 separate years. And so that's been part of what the time has taken, because it needs to be a constitutional amendment. But that is going forward. Unfortunately, it's just a lengthy process to be done.
Okay. Thank you very much. And yes, I know that's important to a lot of you, and so your voice is heard. But again, this is where your organizations are vitally important to make your needs known and to help make sure that your legislators know how important it is to your membership. I can't lobby for you, okay? That's what you're all about. Your organizations, that should be one of your main objectives, is to represent your membership in legislative proposals moving forward. Okay. Any other questions or comments, with or without hat? Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 3rd. It'll be at 1 o'clock, very likely, in this room. Any changes, we will be sure to let you know. Any other announcements? Yes, Barry.
Just real quick, just since our luncheon, and Don, you'll be glad to know this, it's your hometown, but I got another request to do another one of our Agent Orange Town Hall meetings, and for Crossville, Cookville, they've secured the place. It'll be next to his hometown, so hopefully that'll be within the next 2 months. But they've secured everything. Thank you.
Great. And these Agent Orange Town Hall meetings have been wildly successful when the word gets out. And we got a lot of Vietnam veterans that have never filed a claim, that may not know what they're entitled to, but that's what these town hall meetings are all about. They're informational, and then the assistance is there should they want it. So again, that's where we're relying on all of you to get word out on events such as this that can help your membership. Any other announcements? Okay. Do I hear a motion to, George?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This is AMVETS. I have a few items here from our State Commander, Curtis Rust. First of all, our Veterans Affairs Volunteer Services representative at the Murfreesboro campus, Ken Mullins, will be having a cookout for the Veterans Home there April 5th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And our annual fundraising golf tournament will be held at Rock Springs Golf Course in Athens, Tennessee, April 26, 2014. That's at 1118 Congress Parkway, Athens, Tennessee. The cost is $40 per person. Tee time is 9 a.m. And for those who are interested, the phone number is 423-453-5455. And our state convention will be held at the Glenstone Lodge again in Gatlinburg, June 5th through the 8th. Our national convention will be held here in Tennessee August 9th through 17th. That'll be at the Sheridan Memphis Downtown Hotel there in Memphis, Tennessee. That's all I have right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, do we have a motion to adjourn? Scott? Do we have a second? All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.